You know that feeling, don't you? Sitting there, staring at your language app, maybe flipping through a textbook, and despite all the effort, you're still thinking, why isn't this clicking? Why do I still feel, well, stuck?
Hmm.
True fluency feels like such a distant dream sometimes. It's a really frustrating plateau for many
It
learners.
truly is, yeah. And often that plateau isn't really about a lack of effort or even intelligence, It's because so many people are studying about English, kind of dissecting its rules, but they're not really living it, not in its most dynamic human form.
And that's exactly why today we're taking a deep dive into mastering English. Not through another grammar drill, thank goodness, or like a never-ending vocabulary list, but through something incredibly powerful, yet, well, surprisingly overlooked.
Mm.
Real conversations.
Yeah.
Our insights today are drawn directly from the wisdom of an expert known as Teacher Sam, particularly from his approach in mastering English through real conversations.
Yeah, and our mission today is really to uncover why engaging in real conversations isn't just some extra tool. It's the ultimate game changer for English learners. We want to arm you with actionable steps, ways to weave these genuine interactions into your learning journey, helping you leap from just studying to actually truly connecting, growing, and, well, thriving in the language.
So we've touched on that frustration, that feeling of being stuck.
Yeah.
But what if the key to unlocking true fluency isn't another textbook chapter, but something far more human, more dynamic?
Yeah.
Teacher Sam argues it's about shifting our focus entirely, moving beyond just grammar rules to the vibrant, sometimes unpredictable world of real dialogue. What's the core of this power?
Well, the magic here, I think, is that when you're in a real English conversation, you're not just spitting out words, you're connecting, you're laughing, expressing yourself, questioning, clarifying, responding,
Right.
all in real time. You're tapping into tone, emotion, and that quick thinking in a way that honestly just cannot be replicated by any textbook. This isn't just language acquisition, it's almost like life acquisition. You're not memorizing lists, you're living the language. And that's what really rewires your brain for fluency.
And it really forces you into native skill learning, doesn't it? Because
Hmm.
unlike apps that pause for you or classes that stop for corrections, real people just keep talking. You have to keep up.
Absolutely. Conversations are your real-time practice arena. No safety net, really. They teach you to think fast, to speak in those natural chunks of language, not just word by word, and to respond without overthinking every single grammatical detail. You develop that essential fluidity that makes English start to feel like second nature, not some difficult puzzle.
Okay, and what about all those generic vocabulary lists we've all tried to conquer? Teacher Sam points out that real conversations solve that problem too, by building something much more relevant, personalized vocabulary.
Exactly. Forget those lists of words you might never actually use. Real conversations are like your personal language tailor. They custom fit the exact words you need for your actual life, your work, your hobbies, your family, expressing your opinions. And that's why these words stick. They're immediately practical, immediately useful, and incredibly memorable because they actually matter to you.
You know, this next point is one that really resonated with me, and I think it's where Teacher Sam offers a truly fresh perspective. The idea that mistakes aren't roadblocks, but actually your best friends on this journey. It sounds a bit counterintuitive at first,
Well,
right?
yeah.
But it makes profound sense when you think about it.
It really does. The breakthrough here is realizing that every mistake you make in a conversation gives you instant, real, and often unforgettable feedback. You learn what works and what doesn't far faster and, frankly, more effectively than through any quiz or test. It's direct, lived experience, and those lessons, they get etched into your memory.
So, okay, if this is the transformative power, what does it truly mean for you, the learner, in terms of tangible benefits? What do you actually gain from this real talk approach?
Well, the first big one is achieving smooth, swift speaking. It's about flow. With consistent practice, your words start to flow naturally instead of stumbling out one by one. It's like building muscle memory for language, literally training your mouth and your mind to work together more effortlessly.
And it builds real confidence, right? Not just confidence in a classroom setting, but when it actually counts in those moments that matter in your life.
Precisely. Speaking with real people builds genuine bravery. It's incremental. Soon you'll find yourself feeling more comfortable speaking up in meetings or, say, calling customer support without that knot in your stomach,
Mm.
or even just having relaxed chats with your neighbors without that familiar pang of anxiety. It's really liberating.
And beyond just the language skills, this real talk leads to something deeper too, doesn't it? Stronger relationships.
Yeah, this is a profound insight, I think. Conversations create genuine human connection. You're not just learning English vocabulary and grammar. You're connecting with people on a much deeper level. You're forming bonds that actually transcend the language itself. You're building bridges, not just sentences.
Which naturally expands your opportunities, both career-wise and, well, socially too.
Absolutely. English fluency just opens so many doors. New job prospects, better networking opportunities, lasting friendships you might not have made otherwise, richer travel experiences, and access to entire new worlds online and offline you didn't even know existed. It's like a passport to global engagement.
And finally, something maybe often underestimated, but incredibly powerful. Just that deep sense of pride.
Every single chat you complete, especially early on, is tangible proof. You did it. You're doing this. You're improving. You're growing. That sense of accomplishment is incredibly motivating. It fuels you, propelling you forward even on the challenging days.
All right, so we've really established why real conversations are so powerful, huge benefits. But the big question for many of us is how? How do you actually start making this a regular part of your learning routine? Teacher Sam has some fantastic practical suggestions, starting with finding low-stress starting points.
Right, because you don't want to jump into the deep end immediately. Think about platforms like HelloTalk, Tandem, or maybe Conversation Exchange. Those are great for finding language exchange partners, or even just casual meetups in your local community book clubs, sports teams, hobby classes, or virtual coffee chats you can find on sites like Meetup or in Facebook groups. The crucial part is this. You absolutely do not need perfect English to start. Just willingness and, curiosity. Most people are incredibly encouraging and patient. They want to connect.
That's really reassuring. And okay, once you've taken that first step, found someone or a group, what about those initial conversation starters? I know for me, sometimes just that blank slate can be intimidating. Like, what do I say?
Yeah, totally normal.
Yeah.
It's not about memorizing a script word for word, though. It's more about understanding the natural flow. Simple, authentic openers like, hi, I'm learning English. What do you do? That works. Or maybe, I noticed we both like topic. How did you get into that? That can spark a genuine connection. The goal is just natural interaction, not some kind of robotic recitation.
And a huge part of any good conversation, obviously, is active listening, showing you're actually engaged.
Indeed. It's fundamental. It's about responding thoughtfully, letting the other person know you're really hearing them. Simple phrases like, oh, that's interesting, or tell me more about that. Not only keep the conversation flowing smoothly, but they also demonstrate empathy and genuine interest, which really deepens the connection.
Okay, but what if you don't understand something? That's where the fear of embarrassment often creeps in, right? Right. But Teacher Sam says learning to redirect is vital.
It's completely normal not to catch everything. Don't be afraid to say, sorry, could you repeat that? Or what does word mean? Or even something like, could you say that in another way, perhaps? People generally appreciate your genuine interest in understanding, and honestly, it helps solidify your learning in real time. It's actually a sign of a strong learner, not a weak one.
And after the chat, how do we make sure that experience translates into actual concrete learning? Reflection seems key here.
Definitely. You've just had a live learning session. So, what stood out to you? Ask yourself. What new words or phrases did I hear? What mistakes did I catch myself making? Was there a phrase I used that worked really well? Jot these things down, maybe review them later, try use them the next day. This turns every single interaction into powerful, personalized learning fuel.
I really love this idea of shadow practice for building that muscle memory for speech. It sounds like a fantastic bridge between just listening and actually speaking.
It is a fantastic technique, yeah. Just record maybe a 1-minute snippet of native speech from a podcast like this one, a movie clip, whatever. Then pause it and repeat it aloud. But don't just say the words. Actively try to match the tone, the pace, the rhythm, the emotion. This helps you mimic the natural cadence and flow of conversation, really internalizing how native speakers connect their words and ideas.
So how do we weave all these powerful strategies into a consistent routine? Teacher Sam provides a really clear step-by-step roadmap for making real conversations a regular thing.
Yeah, it's all about consistency over intensity. First, set realistic weekly goals. Maybe something like have one 15-minute English chat this week. Start small. Second, schedule it. Put it in your calendar. Treat it like a real appointment you can't miss. Third, maybe prepare a little topic. Jot down just 2 or 3 related words or phrases you want to try using. Fourth, and this is key, just talk. Remember, the goal is connection, making yourself understood, not achieving perfection. Fifth, afterwards, reflect and review. Note what worked, what felt difficult, what's one thing to focus on next time. And finally, step 6, Repeat and expand. Build the habit slowly. Gradually increase the duration or frequency or complexity of your chats.
But what about those pesky emotional barriers, that paralyzing fear of judgment, for instance, that holds so many people back?
Oh, it's a very real concern for so many learners. But you have to try and reframe that thought. Everyone makes mistakes when learning something new, especially a language. Most people genuinely respect the bravery it takes. Mistakes show effort, they're just part of the process. Every single one is truly a step forward, not a step back. Think of it that way.
Or the issue of speaking too late or too softly.
Yeah.
It's like you're whispering your way through English sometimes.
That's a common challenge too, yeah. The key is a step-by-step approach. Start by practicing speaking clearly and at a normal volume when you're alone, maybe reading aloud. Then try it with trusted friends or a patient tutor. Then gradually expand to wider groups or more public settings. It's a natural progression, just building comfort one interaction at a time.
And then there's that awkward moment when you just run out of things to say.
Yeah.
Feels like the conversation just hits a dead end.
You're definitely not alone in that. Happens to everyone. The key is a little bit of preparation. Have 2 or 3 simple follow-up questions ready in your back pocket. Things like, oh, really, what happened next? Or how did that make you feel? These act like little conversational nudges that can keep the ball rolling when things stall.
Okay, so once you're feeling a bit more comfortable with the basics, how do you take your conversations to the next level? Teacher Sam has some more advanced strategies that can help you sound more natural, more engaging, like the yes and technique. Can you explain that?
Right, this simple method is incredibly powerful. It keeps conversations flowing and builds deeper connection. So if your partner says, for example, I started running last month, instead of just saying, oh, nice, you can respond with something like, yes, and I totally love that endorphin boost you did after a run. How far do you usually run each week? Hombre. It shows you're listening, you're validating their point, and you're adding something new, inviting them to share more.
That makes sense. And instead of just asking questions that get a yes or no answer, asking open questions is a game changer for deeper dialogue.
Absolutely. Big difference. Instead of asking, did you like the movie? Which might just get a yes or no, try something like, what was the most surprising thing about the movie for now? Open questions invite stories, opinions, feelings. They give you so much more rich content to respond to naturally. They really open up the conversation rather than shutting it down.
Mirroring tone and energy also sounds like a subtle but potentially really effective technique for building rapport quickly.
It really is. And it's not about mimicking or like putting on an act. It's about genuinely connecting on an almost subconscious level. If your partner is speaking calmly, you might subtly lower your own volume or pace slightly. If they're excited and energetic, you can reflect some of that energy back. This kind of unconscious mirroring builds rapport almost instantly, boosts your own fluency as you match their rhythm, and helps you blend seamlessly into the conversation. It makes it feel more natural for both of you.
And using short stories, that really brings your communication to life, doesn't it? Makes it more memorable.
Definitely. Real conversation isn't just a Q&A session. It's about sharing experiences, little moments. Think of an example like, yesterday I got completely lost trying to take the bus. I was running late, but then through the window I saw the most beautiful sunset. It just reminded me that even detours can have these unexpected moments of beauty. Short personal stories like that make your speech specific, emotional, and way more memorable for your listener. They're like little gifts you share in the conversation.
Plus, using those little conversation flow phrases
Yeah.
can make you sound so much more native, right?
Uh-huh.
Less like you're just connecting separate sentences.
Exactly. Think about phrases like, by the way, or speaking of that, or another thing is, or, oh, that reminds me of who. These are like the linguistic glue that helps you smoothly transition between ideas. They create a much more coherent and natural sounding flow to your speech.
Okay, when it comes to pacing your progress for sustainable growth, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Or maybe try to do too much too soon and burn out. How much conversation and how often should people realistically be aiming for?
Yeah, that's important. Mastering English isn't a sprint. It's more like a marathon or maybe a steady climb. It's about building momentum day by day, that gentle incline. Think of it as gradual, sustainable growth. For example, week 1 could just be 2 10-minute chats. That's achievable. Week 2, maybe 1 20-minute chat. Week 3, perhaps 3 shorter chats, 10, 15, and 20 minutes, trying different partners. And then by week 4, maybe aim for 1 solid 30-minute chat or 2 focused 15-minute ones. The key is building a consistent habit you can stick with.
And building variety into those conversations seems crucial, too, for well-rounded practice. Not just talking about the same thing all the time.
It absolutely is. You want to be ready to use English in all sorts of situations in your life, right? So yeah, try a peer chat with another learner where the pressure is low, then maybe a tutoring session focusing on specific skills or corrections. Try a professional call where you practice, say, pitching an idea or discussing a project. Role-playing can be great for this. Or just a relaxed social dialogue about hobbies, travel, food, whatever interests you. Each type of conversation trains a slightly different set of language muscles.
To really drive this home, let's hear some of those inspirational stories of real growth that Teacher Sam shares. They're quite powerful, like Sarah from Brazil.
Right, Sarah's story is great. She had excellent grammar knowledge from classes, but she would just freeze up in job interviews. Couldn't translate that knowledge into spontaneous speech under pressure. So she started doing weekly video calls with a tutor, specifically practicing with real interview questions. Within just 2 months, she apparently secured a job with an international company, and now she leads meetings confidently in English. Her breakthrough, she says, was all about that consistent conversation practice.
Wow. And then there's Tom from Italy. I love this story because it's so relatable if you have a hobby you're passionate about.
Yeah, Tom loved sports, but hadn't really practiced English much beyond school. He joined a running club while abroad. After their runs, he'd force himself, really push himself, to ask conversational questions about training routines, running gear, races, whatever. At first, he could only manage these short, like 5 to 10 second responses. But after just 4 weeks of doing this consistently, he was confidently leading the group warm-ups in English. He essentially built his fluency around something he was already passionate about, which is a fantastic strategy.
That's brilliant. And Maya from Nigeria, whose story really speaks to building that deeper self-confidence and finding your voice through language.
Maya's story is wonderful. She apparently struggled a lot with self-confidence when speaking English. She joined a virtual cooking club, just talking about recipes, flavors, describing ingredients and cooking processes. Simple stuff related to her interest. Through these weekly discussions, she gradually found her voice, built immense confidence, and now, get this, she hosts her own online English cooking show, teaching others. These stories just powerfully illustrate the profound, sometimes truly life-changing impact that getting comfortable with real conversation can have.
Okay, so for those listening who are feeling inspired and ready to jump in right now, Teacher Sam has structured a fantastic plan, the 30-day Real Conversation Challenge. Can you break that down?
Yeah, it's a great starting point. Week 1, start simple. Aim for 2 10-minute chats, maybe with peers or tutors. Focus on basic introductions, talking about personal interests. Keep it light. Week 2, add a bit more depth. Try one 20-minute chat. Pick a topic like culture, travel, or food. Consciously try to add in some open questions and maybe one short personal story. Week 3, tackle some real-world scenarios. Have one 30-minute session where you practice work or study role plays, like simulating a meeting, a job interview, or maybe booking something over the phone. And then week 4, it's about consolidating and reflecting. Try to chat with at least 2 different partners to get variety. Reflect deeply on your growth over the month and really celebrate your consistency.
That sounds very manageable, but once you've built that initial momentum with the challenge, how do you maintain that consistency long term? It's so easy for new habits to fade away.
It really is. Sustaining it is key. So first, set consistent schedules. Treat your conversation practice time like any other important appointment. Block it out in your Workly planner. Use technology. Set reminders on your phone or calendar app so you don't forget. And most importantly, leverage the wealth of resources out there for live interaction. Keep using Tandem or HelloTalk for language exchange. Consider italki or Reply for affordable tutors if you want more structured help. Look for conversation clubs on Meetup or virtual niche clubs focused on your hobbies on Zoom or Discord. Find your community, find your people, and stick with it.
Let's just quickly revisit those fears and self-doubt one last time, because they are such common, persistent roadblocks. If you're listening and thinking, I'm just so scared I'll mess up.
Okay, try to reframe that thought right now, actively. Mistakes show effort. They show you're trying. Every single mistake you make is actually a visible step forward in your learning journey. It's proof you're engaging, you're learning. You need to embrace them as essential feedback, not failures.
And if you feel like you can't keep up in fast conversations, that feeling of being overwhelmed and left behind.
Don't panic. You have tools you can use. Practice polite interruptions. Sorry, could you perhaps slow down a little? It's okay to ask. Ask for confirmation. So do you mean a let? Or simply repeat back what you thought you heard? Okay, let me just make sure I understand. People will generally appreciate your effort to understand clearly, and it gives your brain valuable extra seconds to process.
So, what's your action plan after hearing all this? We really encourage you to set your first goal right now. Maybe it's something as simple as, okay, I'll schedule 2 10-minute conversational sessions this week. Just start there.
Yeah, and prepare just a little bit. Pick a couple of topics you genuinely find interesting. Write down maybe 3 open questions related to each, just to have in your back pocket. Then connect with a partner or a tutor online or in person and set a specific time. Don't just say, sometime this week. Make it concrete. And then have the chat. Actively try using 1 or 2 strategies we talked about, like the yes and technique, or maybe throwing in a flow phrase like, speaking of that.
And finally, reflect on how it went. Don't beat yourself up. Choose just one small thing you want to improve for next time. It's all about those consistent small steps, building on each little success.
Exactly, because while books teach and apps definitely help, real conversations are what truly transform your English skills. They give your English heart and voice and that authentic confidence that you're ultimately seeking.
And it all begins with just that single step.
Mm.
Pressing call, saying hello, maybe joining that Zoom meeting, choosing conversation over the comfort of silence.
Mhm. The biggest barrier to making huge progress often isn't your current skill level, it's making that very choice. So think about it. What's one small, deliberate step you can take today, right now, to make real conversation a more consistent habit in your life? Knowing that those consistent tiny efforts, day after day, week after week, truly do lead to monumental growth over time.